Hey, folks, welcome back to the Land Fixer podcast. I am your host, as usual, Logan Swanson, where we talk all things land and real estate. And man, we have a hell of a guest today. We have Dallas Cothram he's a regular contributor to the Dallas Morning News, and he's also the president of Masterplan, which is a Millrose company, I believe.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on. We'll get you in here in a second. Folks, a reminder, if you need to buy or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. If you need funding for any of your real estate flips, go to landpartnerfunding.com. And then finally, we have a local monthly seminar that I want everyone to come to here in Arlington, Texas. The next one is this week, this Friday from 7 to 10. Come learn all about buying and selling land as a professional. All right. Dallas, tell us a little bit about yourself, please. We're anxious to hear about it.
Well, I'm Dallas Cothram. I'm not surprisingly a native of Dallas. My dad served on the Dallas City Council from 65 to 80. He's probably best remembered for being one of the owners of the ABA Chaparrals and then working to build Reunion Arena and bring the Mavericks here. So that period also saw the development of DFW that people thought were crazy and all the lakes. But it's really a lot of the basics that got done in the 1960s that have allowed for 8 million people to live in the Metroplex. Had we not had people thinking about, well, what is Dallas and Dallas Water Utilities going to look like in 50 years, we wouldn't be where we are. So, I think we're grateful. So my dad started this business in 81 and I've operated it since, the early 2000s. And now we're in 5 Texas cities. We got Fort Worth and Frisco, Austin and Houston. And then we also bought the LaBarba family's TABC licensing company. So we really try to be, I see us sort of like Chipotle. You can pick which services you want: TBC licensing, building permit expediting, platting, zoning, economic incentives. And some people use us for all those things, which we obviously like. I think we're a great resource for a smaller business that's scaling up because we've done literally thousands of projects and people know. I mean, if you've been to Katy Trail Ice House, American Airlines Center, or the Texas Motor Speedway, we've done all the DART rail stations, 200 DISD campuses. I mean, when you're in business for 40 years, you've had a chance to impact the built environment. And we're really proud of that. So, the faces change, but we always have, a talented cast of people that are client focused and result oriented.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty incredible to have your fingerprints over some of these monuments that just everybody knows. That's
It's
really
fun. I mean,
cool.
the other day I was in a building I hadn't been in and in a while, and I was able to point out to them, we did that one, we did that one. I mean, particularly in Uptown. I mean, it's so dense and and in many ways, I mean, I've worked at the firm since I could start driving a car in, I guess, 85 or something. I'd put up signs and take photos and things on the weekends. So, and I've got a good colleague, Carl Crawley, I've worked with for nearly 30 years. And, we've officed together next to each other for like 24 years. We've done hundreds of zoning cases and, it's fun to be able to, go down the road and say which ones we've done over a long period of time.
Hey, folks, so sorry to interrupt this amazing podcast. What a wonderful host you have so far. But I want to bring you our sponsor for today. Today, we are talking about Pebble, REI.com. My good friend Jesse Kwong has been really making something special over there. Okay, so if you're a land investor, you've done a few deals, you've proven that it works to yourself, and you're kind of stuck trying to use spreadsheets or making some sort of complicated system of Zapier and other CRMs to try to create a hodgepodge and make everything fit together in your business. You don't got to do that anymore. Pebble is built for serious land investors. It's got a fully integrated phone system so you can call and text. It's got your marketing management tools so you can launch and track your campaigns easily. A full property data system. That's right. You don't need to have a whole different software for your leads and get them all the way organized into contracts. There's also built-in due diligence tools so you can pull your neighbor data records, property details, floodplains, all that sort of stuff built right in. And folks, guess what? AI agents have been announced and they are coming this year. If you're using AI powered assistants, you'll be able to automate key parts of your business using this. If your systems aren't centralized, you're going to have a real hard time doing that. So now's the time to streamline everything into Pebble. So you're going to be ahead of the game instead of scrambling to catch up. Now, folks, I got an exclusive offer for you. You know I do. If you go to pebble.com/the land fixer, you're going to get a $50 credit so you can hop in there, do some mailers, pull some data, send out contracts, whatever you need to do. Again, that is pebble, REI.com/the land fixer. Check it out. You're going to love it. That's awesome. I'd be curious to know, what was your like trajectory in the business? What was the first job that you got in there? And then sort of as you've climbed the ladder, I'm curious to know what that looks like.
Well, I went and got a PhD in it from TCU and was a college professor at UT Tyler for from 96 to 2002. And I started working our cases in East Texas, and we had a contract to do all the Verizon towers from Abilene to Natchitoches, Louisiana on I-20. And so my first cases I did were cell towers. But I can remember in high school and stuff going to briefings and things for my dad and just taking notes. And I learned a lot just from listening to his end of cell phone conversations, in the 80s. So, the way my kids have. I mean, I have two pretty for one in college, one in high school. I would tell you my kids know a lot more about real estate than most people do.
Yeah, I mean, it is the sort of thing. If you're steeped in it, you can't
Yeah.
help by, yeah, it's like
Well,
osmosis, right? It seeps
and,
into you.
and my grandfather developed the first mall, Lockwood Shopping Mall in Dallas, and was a developer beginning in the 1930s. So, I mean, I'm proud of. I think my kids also are interested. We're approaching 100 years in Dallas real estate,
Wow.
which, I mean, that's a pretty long amount of time.
That's pretty crazy. So yeah, let's get into Dallas specifically. Now, I believe DFW is like the fastest growing market in the country. Is that correct?
Yes, we're about to be the third largest metro area, and this is the first time a new person has entered the top three since Truman was president. So, you know, but my column in the morning news next week's. I think my working title's been growing pains.
Mm.
And I just was on the phone with the town manager about. I don't care if you're in Salina or Cedar Hill or wherever it is right now, people are sort of tired of the growth, and there's sort of this mentality I'm beginning to worry a little bit about. It's like, I'm already aboard the ship, let's pull up the plank, let's
Mm-hmm.
not let everybody on. Well, that may seem like it's the right answer, but it's not. And when we're doing zoning cases, I pitched something not that long ago where we would bring a significant number of jobs, like more than 100 jobs, and people were like, no, no more. Now, this was in East Dallas, and the Republic of East Dallas, they don't like any change. And so
Mm-hmm.
they don't I think a lot of people have a hard time working non-emotionally. When you get near someone's home, people start to work emotionally.
Yeah,
And
NIMBY, right?
that's why
Not in
they're
my
like, "Oh, I
backyard.
like your project, but it needs to be somewhere else." Well, the market says it needs to be here. And there's just a lot of friction, and I think we're going to see that slow growth. That, look, there's a guy running for mayor in McKinney on a platform of no more growth at all, and that's just not, that's just not realistic or market based.
Yeah, and I wonder how you even get there. It's not like the industry leaders are in favor of something like that, right? I mean, people are going to want to continue to build homes and grow population,
Well,
and
and people want their homes to go up in value, and they want to
yeah,
get a raise at their jobs. If it and if we want those things to continue to happen, we need to have a robust economy. I will tell you the number of zoning cases across the region is way down, and we're the slowest we've been since the recession. I
mm,
don't think that we've somehow gotten worse at doing zoning cases. I'm sure we haven't, but
right.
things are not as good as there were. And I think people are sitting on the sidelines, including people that have a lot of money and typically do projects. They're waiting to see, well, what's going to happen next.
Right. Yeah. And what would you attribute? I'm sure it's more than one thing, but maybe the top three things that you would attribute the growth in Dallas Fort Worth to. I mean, is it just the beautiful scenery? You know?
That's not in my top three for sure. I think I think there are a bunch of things, and I wrote, I don't know, I've written columns on this back in 22 or 23. I think the central location in the U.S. is super important, and like people don't think of Dallas as the top logistics place in the country, but it is. But it took us 30 years for people to start to appreciate DFW for what it is. So now down south, we've got the inland port, which is another huge driver. You've got all these interstate highways that intersect here the most in the country. So, we've got great location. We have a number of excellent regional colleges or universities, tier one research universities too. So, we have a lot of young talent in this market. You probably remember, I do, when these people that were maybe like, oh, the maybe they're high 30s to 40, early 40s now. Seattle was real cool back then.
Oh yeah.
And now it's not. Dallas is real cool for young people to move to. So, and there are a lot of good jobs here, a lot of good high paying jobs, and I think the quality of life. Now, I think a lot of people moved here thinking that this was a low cost market, and it is not now.
Nope.
And that's really changed. I started becoming aware of it, I think, earlier, and have tracked it. I remember when we started working on things in Uptown where you started seeing $100 a foot, and now it can be 10 times that. So, things are changing rapidly. We're going to have to figure out that last thing, because what was once a great benefit, affordability, this is not any longer. It's a problem. Like last week, I wrote about this sort of worrisome trend that I call Texodus. For the first time ever, more people are moving to Oklahoma than are coming from Oklahoma. And the numbers show it's your kind of typical family.
Mm-hmm.
You've got two income earners, and maybe let's say they're making 150 to 200,000. Well, used to be you could buy a nice home in Plano, Allen, McKinney, etc. And now they can't afford good. They have to choose between a nice home or a nice neighborhood or a nice school district. You can't buy all those together. So I'm planning another column. I think Tyler, Sherman, Abilene are also all Texas markets that are going to aggressively pick off young people in the 2030s.
Really? Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about affordable housing. I know my house, we bought a starter home like, I guess, 8 or 9 years ago, and it's nearly tripled in value, which seems like a great problem to have, but we don't have intentions of moving. So we just kind of see our property taxes continually going up and all this sort of stuff. And it makes me think, how do new families start? So do
It,
you see any trajectory there outside of like we're just permanent apartment dwellers, which also is not cheap? Apartments in Dallas are expensive too.
that they are, and the last group, the only people you can really not like anymore are the really wealthy and renters. There's people just blatantly discriminate against renters and say bad things that are not true. Oh, they're going to party. They could only hope to. Most of them have two jobs. They have a main job and a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very, and I've owned a home since, when I became a professor in 96. So I've been a long time homeowner. I didn't make me some kind of special hero. There's nothing that novel about owning a home. There are plenty of people that rent out of necessity, but there's others that rent out of choice. So, but no one wants any apartments. Interestingly, the community that has the highest incidence per capita of multifamily is University Park.
Mm,
Now, that's interesting, isn't it?
yeah.
Because
I
you
would not
don't
have
think
guessed
of
that.
UP as having a lot of multifamily. Now, they don't have big apartment complexes, but there's a lot of rental. And I will say I live in UP. I'm in a block adjacent to multifamily. I'm in single family. The next block is multifamily. The median home price in UP is $2.4 million. So there's no direct correlation between a lot of multifamily and value. And a lot of people think that there somehow is, but they haven't done a lot of research. So I use that fact often, and people don't have an answer for it. So there's an acute affordability crisis for sure, and it's on both the rental side and on the affordable house. And I see these young families having, you'll go to, let's pick some nice upscale suburb, they don't want to look at smaller lots. Most people want to have more home, and they end up being forced by subdivision rules to have larger lots, and that drives the price up for the builder, meaning they end up getting less house than they want or need. And I think that's problematic. Now, I think those communities should have more shared space, like their own spray park, more walkable areas. I mean, so, but you can't, you that there's a problem really. The city of Dallas, it's the most acute. You've got the median voter age is for about 40, or the median age is about 40, but the median voter age is about 63.
Yeah.
So you have council members that respond to who the voter is. And the voter is a boomer or older that believes in large lots and everybody owns a home. Well, yeah, they had it easy. I
Yep.
mean, I'm a Gen Xer. I mean, life looks pretty good for boomers and they're enjoying a really good retirement. That is not what, I mean, I'm really worried about, maybe not my kids per se, but certainly that generation. What
Hmm.
can they afford? And how long will it be before they don't have student loans? I mean,
Right.
people have more student loans and higher interest rates. All these things conspire against young people having the American dream of, two cars and a good school district in a safe neighborhood.
And we feel it, but we also see it in my, I'm mid-30s, my wife's a little younger, and we kind of have a friend group, and a lot of them are just trying to buy their first home,
Yeah.
in their mid-30s, and they're like, what's the point? Especially with the interest rates where they are right now. It's like you kind of don't want to. Yeah, and everybody's praying that they're going to drop back down to 3%, and I don't see that in the future. Do you?
No. And no, definitely I don't. I mean, no. I mean, I mean, in I bought my first house and they were higher than it is now. They were in the, eights or something. I mean, it's doable,
Hmm.
but I was also in Tyler, a lower cost market.
Yeah.
That's why I do think you're going to see those markets, start people decide like they're deciding to move to Oklahoma City. They're going to make other choices.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you kind of see that with the booming in Tyler right now.
Mhm.
But I mean, even like Royce City, these areas that were nothing 10 years ago are growing dramatically. So I think it's just going to keep spreading and keep spreading. But that being said, where do you see the Dallas economy in the next, say, 5 years or 10 years? And specifically, do you have any concerns about the commercial real estate market in this area?
No, look, Goldman's going to, in 2028, Goldman's going to have moved here and their new campus is going to be open in Victory. There are going to be more businesses that move here. I think the commercial side is going to continue to be good, and there's lots of opportunities for redevelopment. It's a little slow now. I think next year may not be great, but I think probably 2027 and beyond are going to be as good here as there are anywhere in the country. So, I would say the real estate fundamentals here are good. I mean, I think we've seen a lot of the appreciation we're going to see in single family. So, if you owned, if you bought prior to the pandemic, you bought yourself a lot of equity. Now
Hmm.
the problem's going to be where you're going to go. And I plan to write about maybe this year or next. I'm starting to follow. I think you'll see a lot of very affluent Texans cash out and move to other states
Really?
that have lower property taxes and no state income tax. So I think South Carolina,
Hmm.
Florida, there's some places that I